A Moment with Dr. AudreyAnn Moses.
Okay, so we'll probably have some more announcements. But anyway, right now, I am so excited. I am so excited because I have my friend here, my classmate. I'm just so happy to have him here. This is Kamau Sadiki, and he is a Greenwood native. And if you were here earlier in the summer, he and his colleagues came to the Art Center and did a presentation on his work, on their work. They are archaeologists and divers. So I've always admired archaeologists, but I've never known one in person. And not only do I know one now in person, but he is also, like I said, my classmate. And I am just so happy and proud of him. So I am going to let him tell you about him. And then we're going to talk about some of his explorations that he's done and what they are doing now.
Okay, well, good morning, Audrey. It's a really, really great pleasure to be here on Emerald City Radio with you at WCZZ here in Greenwood, my hometown.
Yeah.
So it's I'm excited and even inspired, and hopefully I can build on the great work that you all are doing here at this radio station and keeping the community connected, informed, and involved and engaged.
That's what we're trying to do here. Keep the community connected.
Yeah, so thank you so very much. That's real critical work for us to, for us to find our humanity again, right? To stay connected. So thank you. Yeah, so just a little bit about me. Well, first I want to acknowledge my mom, if I can.
Yes, absolutely.
My 96-year-old mom is Lola Anderson. She's the reason for my being. So it's always appropriate to make that acknowledgement, I think. So yeah, just a little bit about me. I was born and raised here in Greenwood. I attended East End Elementary. I attended Brewer High School, as you know, for my junior high school years, 7 through 9, and we all went over to the new Greenwood High School.
We went over to the new Greenwood High School.
And created a little bit of history, right?
Good history.
Good history, yeah, good history. Yeah,
Good history.
We did some good work over there, and we all the class of 72. So I left and went in the military, but got out of the military, attended Howard University, studied engineering there. My professional career was in engineering, and I retired in 2017. But during that journey, Audrey, I picked up about 20 some odd years ago the sport of scuba diving. And at this very moment, I have something like 1,700 odd dives in the open ocean. Yeah, that's a few.
Wow.
And it's a whole other world down there that we have very little knowledge of, but we have to be increasingly aware of our maritime environment, simply because our lives depend on it. Yeah, every second breath you take comes from the oxygen that's generated by the oceans.
And I hate it when I see trash in the water.
Yeah.
You know, I'm Navy, and it's like the last thing I want to see when we are sailing is trash in the ocean. It's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's really painful to see. To see something that's impacted that we're very much dependent on for our sustenance and life way. So I took up the sport of scuba diving, and I got connected with an organization called the National Association of Black Scuba Divers. Actually, I'm a past president of that organization. But within that organization, there was another group called Diving with a Purpose. Diving with a Purpose. And so, that was the group that was focused on at the Art Center back in February, March. They had a great exhibition. And I really appreciate the class of 72 coming out real strong for that presentation. I was so happy to see everybody. So that exhibition sort of documented the work that we're doing around shipwrecks. And so if I can just provide a little context for that. These shipwrecks that we work on was involved in what I call the transatlantic era of African enslavement. Now, if you listen to the other narrative that wants to tell our story as opposed to we telling our own, they would call it the transatlantic slave trade. But I just want to make it very clear, Audrey, and I'm very passionate about this, that our ancestors was never slaves. Our ancestors were never slaves. They were enslaved. And that was a condition, not their identity. And the other narrative want to make it their identity, our identity, so it can continually, as we go forward, to diminish us and our contribution to world history. So it's very important for us to put that in the proper context as we tell our own story. I have a great friend in South Africa who's doing some incredible work. He always say, hey, Kamau, if you want to change the story, you have to change the storytellers. So we are becoming the new storytellers of our own narrative as opposed to other people telling us who we are. So we have to be very clear about that. So I don't use the term anymore. I'm very cognitively and consciously taking it out of my vocabulary and appropriately say that these are human beings. They were mothers, fathers, uncles, philosophers, craftsmen, agriculturalists, had incredible skill sets, and that's why they was used, for the free labor. But that's another question. So there was some 12,000 ships that was involved in the transatlantic era of African enslavement. 12,000, right? And how many do you know, Audrey?
Don't even ask me that question on live radio.
No, I don't want to embarrass you. No, it's not. That's not the intent. But the point I'm trying to make is
I know the ones you taught me about.
Yeah. But the point here, Audrey, though, definitely not to embarrass you or humiliate you, but to make the point that we, all of us, have very little knowledge of these vessels. I bet you if I say the Titanic, wow, lights will go off, right?
Everybody like, I remember the movie.
Right, if I say the Mayflower, ring a bell, right? Even if I say the Nina, Pina, and the Santa Maria, right? You definitely know who those ships are because the prevailing narrative have made sure that we were informed about those. But the irony is, Audrey, is that the Nina, the Pina, and the Santa Maria, they never pulled into any port along the U.S. coastline. But if I say the Clotilda, the White Lion, the Glorious Jenny, all of those, that's just a few of many that did pull into the ports of the U.S. and delivered our ancestors to perform free labor for centuries. Right. And we should know the stories of those vessels. And our organization and the work that I do is to bring those stories out of the water, out of the oceans, and put them into the narrative, into our collective country, to bring them back into memory. So during that process, they had to cross the Atlantic. And this is even more heavy on my heart and spirit. There's some 2 million African people on the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. No one never told them to rest in peace. Right. No one never acknowledged them. Right. So we have to bring them back into memory. Now, we're not talking about those that perished on the continent of Africa itself because of enslavement, or those that perished in the U.S. because of the system, but just crossing.
In transit.
Those that was thrown overboard, whether willingly or voluntarily, to prevent themselves from being enslaved and their humanity denigrated. Some voluntarily jumped off those vessels. But there were pregnant women, there were children, adult men and women, laying on the bottom of the ocean right now and coiled in these coral reefs. Their bones are coiled in these coral reefs. And we have to bring them back into memory because they are the very reason that we are here today. That sacrifice of life itself is the very reason that we're here today. So we document these vessels, and the last one that I worked on, it happened to be in the state of Alabama. Right here in the U.S. It's called the Clotilda. Clotilda. It rests right now on the bottom of the Mobile River near the city of Mobile, Alabama, north of the city. And it was a very horrendous act that was done, and it came into the U.S. in 1860. And so it's important for us, if we know history, and history will really, really liberate us, right, if we understand it. 1860, put it in the time context, that was just a few months before a phenomenal event happened in this country. And that was what? The Civil War, right? A few months before the Civil War.
President Lincoln.
So a few months before the Civil War, 110 Africans was brought into Mobile, Alabama, against the federal law. It was illegal, quote, if you can. I have difficulty with legalizing and legal and so forth. But anyway, the point is that there was a law that prevented supposedly the importation of Africans into the U.S. to enslave them. So, but they did it.
Yeah.
On the Clotilda. They were enslaved for a little period, and then the Civil War. After the Civil War, in 1867, they went back to the perpetrator, Timothy Mayer, to say, help us after the Civil War. We are here and have nothing to do. You brought us here. Can you help us? And he said, you must be out of your mind.
Yeah.
I didn't bring you here. Right.
I don't have nothing to do with you.
But here's another irony is that they pooled their resources in 1867 and actually bought land from the guy that brought them here, the perpetrator that victimized them. And they established a community down there called Africatown.
Africatown.
Yeah, and that community actually flourished, but it was up against some incredible odds of environmental racism, of course, economic racism, et cetera, et cetera. But it's still there. And we have revitalized the memory. And so the Clotilda is the centerpiece of that story.
Yeah.
Right? And so we found the Clotilda.
Yeah.
We told the community in May of 2019, excuse me, that we have found where your ancestors, this vessel that your ancestors was on that crossed the Atlantic.
Yeah.
That was an incredible, moving experience for them. You know? Because how many ships did I say came across the Atlantic? You remember? 12,000. Yeah. The Clotilda.
12,000.
Yeah, the Clotilda being the very last one. But what's more importantly, out of all of those vessels, excuse me, the 12,000 that we're aware of, only about 15 or so have been documented archaeologically. Just 15. And the very benefits we're experiencing today was because of all those vessels that came across the Atlantic. But we don't even know their names, right?
Right.
So, but the Clotilda was the very last one, right? And it's the only one where you can actually see the outline of a vessel or ship itself. Right. The rest of them are scattered across a wrecking environment, and we just have little artifacts here and there. But what's even more incredible, Audrey, is the actual cargo hold that those 110 experienced in crossing the Atlantic is still there. And I dove into that space. It's absolutely...
And I saw you had a video. Did you have a video of that, or was it a different one? You had a video where you were diving through.
Yeah, so that video, I think of what you're referencing is there's a monument in Grenada of these sculptures underwater. Not that one?
No, it was a ship. It looked like the pieces of wreckage.
Yeah, there might have been another vessel that we helped identify, but it wasn't a vessel of enslavement. It was a vessel called the Hannah Bell off the coast of Key Largo, Florida. They called us down there to help them out to identify that vessel, and we did. Right. And so, what I was talking about, the Clotilda and that hole that we found, that the 110 came across in. So what makes the Clotilda so important? Of all those 12,000 ships, that is the only artifact we have to tell the story. All the rest of them is gone. So it's a very precious and sacred artifact. And we treat all these wreck sites as very sacred sites because people have lost their lives. And so my first experience of engaging this materiality around these wrecks was off the coast of Cape Town, South Africa. There's a wreck there called the South Jose Phuket de Africa. It sank in around 1890, and so 212 of our ancestors drowned in that wrecking event. And so that was in 2013 or so when I first engaged that vessel. And I remember when I first saw a piece of that vessel. It was absolutely incredible. It was a piece of a wooden member, and these wooden ships are constructed very strong, so these pieces are very large. Excuse me, I'm going to get a drink of water here. But I remember I was scuba diving and checking the area out, doing a survey dive, recall. And I came up onto this vessel, this piece of wood. And I recall very vividly seeing that, and I had to pause. I paused for a moment, and then I remember swimming over to it and just wanted to grab it and touch it. And the moment that I embraced that piece of artifact, that this horrific accident and the loss of life occurred, I immediately heard the pain and felt the screams, heard the screams of our ancestors that perished in that wrecking event. That particular wreck is some of the artifacts from that wreck is also in the National Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C., on the bottom floor in the Freedom and Slavery exhibit. So if you're ever in Washington, D.C., you can go by and see that exhibition. So, but as I said, we treat these sites as very sacred sites. And so, back to the Clotilda, having that experience on the WCZZ, a colleague of mine, a dear friend, Sabrina Johnson, said, Kamau, if you're going to work on that Clotilda, where it is the only artifact we have now that we can document what actually happened and our ancestors experiencing that horrific crossing, you need to find a way to connect to those ancestors, right? And we do this ritualistically, right? I know from personal experience. I said we know about 15 of them, and very humbly I say I've had the experience to dive on 6 of those 15, to work on 6 of those vessels. So I know that through that water, our ancestors are speaking to us. The ocean has memory. The spirit. Absolutely. It's very, very palatable. It's very, very powerful. It's very, very strong. You know, the ocean has memory, and they're speaking to us. But, you know, they're not speaking to us in English, Spanish, or Portuguese. But we have to know how to listen as well. Yeah. But we can't listen with our ears, right? We have to listen with our heart. It's a spiritual sort of experience. So we have to know how to listen. And so my friend Sabrina said, Kamau, if you're going to make if you're going to be engaged in this project and go into that cargo hold, that horrific, horrible space, you have to find some way to really connect to those ancestors and communicate with them. So right before I dove into the hole, I was standing on this, we had a barge out there. I was standing on the deck of the barge, getting ready to get in the water. And I said, she wrote this prayer along with me. I've made a few changes, but she essentially wrote it and said, Kamau, you need to recite this prayer before you go into that hole. And if you don't mind, I'd like to share with your radio audience. Yes. So this is a prayer of the first dive I took on the Clotilda, and being one of 2 African Americans that's ever dove into a cargo hold that our ancestors came across on the Atlantic. And this is on the Clotilda, and it says, an ancestral prayer for Clotilda first dive, reviving the spirits who traveled on the Clotilda. Beloved ancestors, your voices have been quiet for 162 years, but your silence ends now. Your voices and memory are lifted now from this wretched vessel through us, and we welcome you to speak through us. Our connection will never be broken. We are because of you. Thank you for reaching out to us. Blessings to your spirit always. I'm getting chills right now. And I made that dive. You know, there's this ideal about epigenetic trauma, that the trauma that our ancestors experienced is still deeply embedded in our mitochondrial DNA. And that can be triggered. And that's what was triggered in me. I felt the trauma that they experienced. And after I recited this prayer and went into that hole, I experienced a little bit of that trauma. As I said, I had about 1,700 dives in the open ocean, so I know a little bit about staying stable in the water. Right. But when I went into that space, I began to tumble. Couldn't get my equilibrium, my balance. Right? I was introduced to the trauma maybe that they experienced, or the turbulence that they experienced, but that's what actually happened to me. I had that experience. But I eventually got my buoyancy and equilibrium together, and I explored the whole archaeologically and so forth. And I remember also, and I'll end the story here, Audrey, when I was down there for about an hour in that space, communing, doing the science, right? I remember my dive buddy was with me. I was leading the dive. I said, it's time to go up. And I remember breaking the surface of the water and seeing the sun and breathing actually fresh air again. First thing that came to mind was that's the experience that our ancestors had when they was crawled out of this horrible hole and able to breathe fresh air again. So yeah, this is incredible work, Audrey. I'm humbled and privileged and blessed in many ways to be able to do this work and to tell these stories. And I hope that we can inspire the next generation to do that. And so I'm here in Greenwood, and I'm trying to make a few connections to start what we call a swim to scuba program.
Oh, okay, good.
Where we get young people.
I was going to ask you that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Maybe we can chat about that a bit. But we want to get young people involved in swimming again, and those that are involved in swimming now, make sure they're very proficient, and then introduce the sport of scuba diving to them. And once they go through that portal of scuba diving, the whole world opens up to them. Literally. I've been all over the globe, fortunately, and I don't say that boastfully, but very humbly, and I've learned many other cultures and experienced many other things, and so I want to pass that on. I want to come back home and pass that on.
Well, I have a 6-year-old niece that she's going to become one of your students.
Okay. So, hopefully, it's never too late never too early and never too late to learn how to swim. So.
Yeah, but the reason I thought about the children was because when you were here before at the Art Center, you did do that little workshop with the children. And my understanding, my niece wasn't in town that weekend, so I couldn't bring her. But I do understand that they really did enjoy themselves. The children did. They did.
Yeah,
it was really exciting for them.
Yeah, it was exciting for me as well. It was very inspiring to see their enthusiasm, right?
And I was thinking, I said, Kamau and all these little children, is that going to work? But it did. It worked out just fine.
Yeah, I think it was more so the subject matter than me. They were more interested in the subject matter than me, for sure. But it was incredible. And see the gleam in their eye and the excitement. And I just want to give them an opportunity to broaden that sort of experience. Yeah. We went over to Benjamin Mays Elementary School as well. And talked to classes over there, and they was just as excited as well. Learning the art of scuba diving can work wonders for a child, right? And boost their confidence. To give them critical thinking skills. How to manage risk. It opened the doorway to all sort of STEM subjects and increase their awareness of the ocean environment, the marine environment. Which is very important, and so all those attributes is very important to pass on, and that's what I would like to do here in my hometown of Greenwood.
So I think I heard you mention when I walked out that about your exhibit in D.C. So are you going to have an exhibit in Charleston?
There's a museum down there. If folks are not aware, the International African American History Museum. I haven't been down there. I would love to get down there. But at this point, there haven't been any conversations about that. They have a lot of rich history about the transatlantic era of African enslavement down there. And actually, the museum is built on a wall where some of the Africans brought into the U.S. Right there where the museum exists. So I think, from what I understand and read, they've done a great job curating that, trying to tell that story and memorializing that experience. So I really would love to get down there. I've been down in the Sea Islands and done some work down there in St. Helena and on Hilton Head with some folks down there, but didn't make it to Charleston yet. But that's on my to-do list for sure. It's on your list, okay.
So now, what would have to? I guess this is kind of a rhetorical question, maybe, but it was 12,000 ships. We only know the names of 15.
So, if that.
Or so. And so, what would have to happen to try to? I guess it would have to be some sort of ancestral search or something to find the other names.
Well, in this environment, the current environment of erasure, right? Yeah, we're going to have to do it ourselves. There's tremendous amount of information out there that's in the archives.
Right.
Yeah, but it's not in the public square and public consciousness. So we're going to have to do a lot of research, and that's where basically the work starts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in the archives of these communities telling these oral stories, these oral histories. And you say there's a ship out there? What kind of ship out there? Well,
right.
They say, well, my ancestors came over. Why don't we know about it? And so
Right.
we go to the archives and start doing some research, and we discover information. It's exactly what happened with the Salsazay off the coast of Cape Town.
Right.
Archaeologist in Cape Town, a good friend. He had gone to the archives in Portugal. There was a Portuguese vessel, and he discovered, hey, this guy even wrote a report about the accident. And he had to, because for want folks to understand that all those 12,000 ships was an investment.
Right.
And these people want to return
on their money.
On their money,
Exactly.
absolutely. So they kept meticulous records.
So we have to follow the money.
Absolutely. They kept meticulous records. And so when one of those ships was lost, whoever survived, the captain particularly, they was disposed. And he wrote a deposition about the accident or whatever, and then that information is in the archives. So we can find these vessels.
Right.
We know where some of them are. And again, they have horrific stories behind them. And I'll just share two real quickly. One your audience might have heard of called the Zong. It was a British vessel that had over 200 African ancestors on it, and it had gone into trying to get into Jamaica. Right?
Oh.
But the incompetent captain misnavigated. He missed Jamaica and ended up way out into the Gulf of Mexico. I did say Gulf of Mexico, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what it
right.
is.
Yeah. So anyway, he said, "Well, we're going to have to reverse course." But he was about 4 or 5 days out and didn't have enough provisions. So he came up with this diabolical scheme that I have this quote cargo, these human beings below, and they are insured. Maybe if I throw them overboard, I can collect the insurance when I get to Jamaica. And he commenced over a 2 or 3 day period to throw 152 men, women, and children breathing alive overboard.
And he wrote that down.
And then when he got to Jamaica, his crew turned on him and told him what happened. And so it's just diabolical for someone even to think like that relative to another human being. But I'll leave you with this last one. And it's around a vessel called the Leusden. It was a Dutch vessel, Dutch East Indian vessel. And it was a mega vessel. It was like, the only way I can contextualize it, if you're familiar with vessels at all, is these Panamax vessels that are going through the Panama Canal now, these big, huge, massive vessels. So it was one of those Panamax vessels of the day. It had about 700 of our ancestors on it. And it was trying to get to Suriname. Again, another incompetent captain, misnavigated, went up the wrong river, the Maury River. He wanted to go up the Suriname River near Suriname and Guyana in South America. And so he reversed course and came back out. But when he came out back into the open ocean, we believe it's a hurricane that struck. He saw that he was going to possibly lose the vessel. He told the crew to drop anchor. They dropped anchor in the delta of the river. The vessel locked in, but it started swinging around, and the stern ran into the reef, and he fractured the hull. Started taking on water, so he gave the command to his crew of about 90 men to abandon ship.
And he left. I heard about that one.
Yeah.
And he left the others on board.
Yeah, not only left them on board, he instructed the crew to lock down the hatches.
I read about that in something either you had or something. I remember reading about that, that he locked it.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, and then over a 2 day period, can you imagine, even if they knew how to swim, shackled,
they couldn't get out.
Falling into the ocean.
Yeah.
Who's going to tell that story?
Yeah. But Kamau, I just thank you so much for coming in and talking to us about our history.
Sure.
And you are welcome anytime
Thank you,
that you're in town. let us know, just real quickly, what are you working on, regardless of what it is now you got coming up?
Yeah, we're still doing the work down in Mobile, Alabama.
In Mobile,
with the
okay.
youth. Yeah, doing the swimming scuba program down there.
Yeah.
We also got what we call a West Africa strategy going on, working with countries from Benin all the way down to Cameroon,
Right.
getting young folks engaged down in the program down in there as well.
Right. So we are going to be looking for things. We're going to be looking for the scuba program for the children here. So I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. Kamau, Sadiki, thank you for coming.
Yes.
And I appreciate you.
Thank you, Audrey. Thank you so very much, and thank you
Your
so very.
necklace. Okay, can you explain your necklace? Is
Oh.
it just something?
Yeah, no. It's important. Viewers can't see it, but it's a part of what's called manta rays. Maybe they can see it online.
Yeah.
Those are manta rays. Very beautiful.
Manta rays.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
very beautiful, majestic animals. And I was in the Maldives. I don't know if that's off the western coast of India.
Yeah.
And they are very majestic. So
Right.
these are my favorite marine animals.
Oh, okay.
Manta rays.
Good. Yeah, it's a beautiful necklace for those of you that can't see it.
But I want to just thank you real quickly, Audrey, and thank you, Emerald City Radio, for this
Yes.
opportunity to get the message out. And I wish you
Yes.
so much success.
Yes.
I really hope you continue to grow and keep the community informed.
Thank
So
you.
thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.